Welcome everybody to the Off the Mic Wrestling Show here on YouTube. I'm Mike Mayer. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Reacting to NXT No Mercy. This was an awesome show. NXT, as I continue to say on this channel, is where it's at. This is not black and gold NXT. This is in 2.0. It's the perfect blend of everything that is going right with WWE right now, and they are grooming the stars of tomorrow, and that was really on display on this show tonight. You even had some TNA flavor sneaking in there a little bit. Joe Hendry obviously being in the main event, and Zachary Wentz also being on this card as the new X Division champion, and I'll talk about that match. That match was fucking awesome. But this was a really, really solid show from Denver. 7,000 people there. I know some AEW tribalists will try to knock on the attendance. I was like, guys, there's not a main roster star on this show. 7,000 people in a major market like Denver on a Sunday in September? Are you freaking kidding me? That's insane. That's insane to get something like that. So that was really great. Let's dive into this card really quick here. So first match on the show is Chase U, which is Andre Chase and Ridge Holland taking on Axiom and Nathan Frazier. This was a really awesome opener. Another thing I got to point out here, all of these matches were relatively given the same amount of time, anywhere from 13 to 15, 16 minutes. All of these 6 matches got on the show. It moved along. It moved very quickly. I know a big complaint on WWE Premium Live event shows is too many adverts. There wasn't very many of those in this show. These jumped from match to match. There was big moments that were allowed a chance to breathe, but this was a really well-paced show from a WWE perspective, because I know that's a big problem with some people, and it's not so much for me, but I know a lot of people are like, too many advertisements. Like, we need more matches. Like, this show moved along for 6 matches. It got done in under 3 hours. So, anyway, first match on the show, like I said, Axiom and Frazier challenging Andre Chase and Ridge Holland of Chase U for the NXT Tag Team titles. This was a fast-paced, really entertaining, really energetic match. And towards the end of this thing, we get Frazier getting Chase with a superplex brainbuster super kick combination, and Andre Chase kicks out of that. Axiom accidentally hits Frazier with the golden ratio kick, his finish, teasing a lot of tension in that end. Ridge then turned Axiom inside out with a clothesline. Holland hit Axiom with an assisted powerbomb backstabber, which was really cool. Axiom kicks out of that. Frazier takes out Holland and Chase with a missile drop kick. Frazier hits Ridge Holland with a flip dive. Axiom got a 2 count on Chase with an inside cradle. Chase then hit Axiom with a neck breaker. Frazier blind tags in. Axiom hits Chase with the Spanish fly. And Nathan Frazier with an impressive amount of distance on the Phoenix Splash for the win. A big surprise to kick off this show, as Axiom and Frazier only a couple weeks removed from losing the championships, win them back. And I'm all about it. This is a freaking fantastic tag team. I just didn't expect them to go this direction. I thought they were going to get a little bit more mileage out of this Chase U thing. But I'll talk about the finish in a second. It made a ton of sense. I got to say this about Nathan Frazier. Axiom's freaking great. Nathan Frazier, when he gets an opportunity to potentially be a singles wrestler, this guy is going to be an effing star. And you see all of the elements of Seth Rollins in him, which is fitting considering Seth Rollins trained him. Like, this guy's a young Seth Rollins, and seeing him perform, the speed that he works off of, it's just like, and the athletic ability, the moves that he does, there's just so much of Seth in here, and he's just a joy to watch in the ring, and it's just really fantastic to see him doing so well. And this team with Axiom, I think, has really unlocked something in him as well. And who's to say how long the runway is for this team? But I like the fact that they got the tag team titles back, because they're on it. They are the best tag team in NXT right now. That being said, I didn't expect this to happen, given they just lost the championship, so that was a little bit of a surprise. But then after the match, Chase U is kind of getting their wits about them. And Riley Osborne and Duke Hudson are trying to leave the ring. Ridge Holland turns on Chase U. I did not see that happening. I thought that maybe Duke Hudson, maybe even Riley Osborne, who have been resistant to Ridge the whole time, would turn in the event that maybe the unlikely scenario, like I didn't expect this, would happen. So Ridge then takes out Chase with a clothesline. Called Hudson a son of a bitch, tossed him into the barricade. He tossed Riley Osborne into the barricade. He press slammed Chase to ringside. Thea Hale, who is just so freaking good for someone. Like, I think she just turned 21, or she may be still 20. So gifted in terms of not only as a wrestler, but in terms of her character and just showing emotion. It's just really, she has got the whole complete package for what you're able to do as a performer at this young of an age and being so new to the business. So then Ridge gets up on the announce table with Chase, hits his Redeemer DDT. I guess that's what it's called. I mean, I don't know. Hey, the Redeemer I thought was Miro, but he's not appearing on AEW. But okay, we got to move. I don't know where that came from. Ref gets the stretcher out. We have a stretcher job 20 minutes into this thing. Apparently, the fans in Denver were chanting one more time. Wrestling fans are really sick freaks. A babyface gets his ass kicked, and everybody wants to see crazy shit. I mean, we saw it with Bronson Reed, just effectively killing Seth Rollins. But, this was a really good angle. I did not see this coming. I have said how impressed that I've been that Ridge Holland, after like this, effective weird odyssey that he's been on since going back to NXT and sort of breaking off from the Brawling Roots, this effectively sets him out on his own. You turn on an over group like Chase U. I'm all about this. Like, I didn't expect it, and definitely a good hot angle to start off the show. So then next match, this was just oh my god. So let's start out. It's Zachary Wentz versus Wesley. The video package to hype this thing up, going back to when they were MSK, through everything, and through when the former Nash Carter, now known as Zachary Wentz, like going through all of these elements of history to when Wes had to go through his back injury, to go through all of the trials and tribulations after losing the NXT North American title, to losing to Obafemi, to almost quitting NXT. The way that they laid out this video package, it was one of the best like hype up video packages prior to a match that I've seen in a long time, because it told a lot of story and reminded you of like why this matters and why this is on a premium live event. Like, it really stuck out to me. Like, a really phenomenal job by WWE's production crew. And so then Zachary Wentz comes out first, and they introduce him, and like I told you guys on Friday at Emergence, shockingly in Ultimate X, he won the X Division title. He comes out with the X Division title. He's announced as the TNA X Division champion. Somewhere Vince McMahon is watching this on the screen and throwing shit. Not even 2 years ago, you wouldn't have fathomed another wrestler from another company coming on somebody else's show on WWE programming and being announced as a champion. The only time that ever happened was the 2022 Royal Rumble, when Mickie James came out as the Knockouts champion. And if you paid attention to some of the reporting that was going on, it was like pulling teeth to even get that agreed to. So the fact that this happened on a big show like this for NXT, and for Zachary Wentz to walk out 2 days after winning the championship and be announced as that on a WWE show when he's not even under contract with WWE is just insane for me to think about. But this was such a great match, and a lot of cool spots going on. Towards the end of the match, Vic Joseph joked that Wentz got hit so hard he might think his name was Carter now. I popped for that because that Nash Carter was Zachary Wentz's WWE character name when he was in MSK, so that was a very funny line. Wentz hits Wesley with a blockbuster DDT. Wes rebounds with a Meteora. Both men are lying down. We get a "This is awesome" chant. Wes then clears off the announce table. Wes tosses Wentz into the steps. Wes then goes for the knees, fame that was the fame spot, part of that heel turn, that shocking heel turn that he had a few weeks back. Goes for those knees in the steps, but Zach Wentz ducks. Vic notes that Vic Joseph's so great, by the way. He notes the referee is counting slow on purpose to get a winner in this match. So we get a TNA chant again. if Vince McMahon was watching this, man, he's probably just just throwing shit because, again, you would never see something like this, and to see a partnership like this with TNA wrestlers on a show so prominent, it's such a breath of fresh air to see these two companies working together when they were competing with each other 15 years ago. It's so unbelievable to see something like that. So Wes gets Wentz on the table with a hook kick. And the table falls on its own. So very powerful kick. So it was definitely a botch, but Wes then he hits Wentz in the head with a double stomp from the I think it was from the top rope. Look, the way they made this spot work was really neat because it looked like a botch, but then Wes just makes it work, and it's a vicious looking double stomp from the ring down to the floor. Wes then tossed Wentz into the ring post. So then he gets the X Division. So he goes for the X Division title at ringside and just drops it like it's a piece of crap. So there's the disrespect, him playing a heel. He grabs a steel chair, but Trey Miguel shows up at ringside, grabs the chair away from Wes, and then Zachary Wentz comes up from the apron and hits a Canadian destroyer from the apron to the floor. That was nasty. And then Zach Wentz throws Wes in the ring, hits his UFO cutter for the win. And you heard this right. Zachary Wentz, TNA wrestler, beats Wesley WWE superstar on a WWE Premium Live event. What the hell has 2024 become? Am I living in a parallel universe? That's fucking awesome. Like, I never thought in a million years that a TNA wrestler would go to a WWE show and win there. This was a stunning result. I did not see this in a million years. Seeing and them putting over on commentary how much this meant for Zachary Wentz to win this. Trey Miguel getting involved. It's very clear that this TNA partnership is working both ways. So the criticism of, it's not really benefiting TNA. This was as big of a statement as ever, that this is a mutual partnership, and you get a TNA wrestler going to your show and winning. That's it. Like, I thought maybe it could have been a possibility with Joe Hendry, but given the nature of the fact that it's the NXT title, it probably wasn't going to happen. And not to disrespect Zachary Wentz, I thought him getting the X Division title was a means for, hey, Wes is going to beat him, go to TNA, and challenge him for it. But Zach gets the win with the help of his friends. So I don't think this feud's over by any stretch of the imagination. So maybe that's why they went with this. But again, I keep going back to it. It's stunning that in the year of our Lord 2024, a TNA wrestler going to a WWE, yes, it's NXT, still, it's a WWE show. A TNA wrestler going to a WWE show and winning a match is just unheard of. So shout out to Shawn Michaels and the people within NXT for taking a chance like this, because this is only the beginning, and this was a very bold decision, a very shocking decision, and I think it's going to create some waves. And like I said, you wouldn't expect it from somebody like Zachary Wentz, but hey, to be that guy, that's got to mean something for him too. That's a big noteworthy moment for his career, to be in a match with one of his best friends in this business, and to say, yeah, I'm the first TNA contracted wrestler to go to another promotion in WWE, the biggest wrestling promotion in the world, and go and win a match on a premium live event. That's a cool accomplishment for Zachary Wentz. So, like I said, I had to spend a lot of time talking about that because that was just a huge moment for, I just think, the wrestling business. Then we get Kalani Jordan versus Wendy Chu. This was fine. Crowd wasn't really into it, and I think that really hindered it a little bit. Kalani still has some work to do. She's only been in the business for a handful of time. I need to address this before I get into this match. Brian Alvarez and some of these Wrestling Observer newsletter people have been saying a bunch of stupid shit. I saw that there was a take about that he said he's driven crazy about WWE hyping up these NIL athletes and what they've done in the past and their credentials and stuff. And he says he doesn't give a shit about it. Listen, I like the fact that they're actually humanizing some of these athletes and saying, hey, this person went to this university and was an accomplished gymnast. And I think that's refreshing to see these raw ability hires, these NIL hires, go into WWE and the Performance Center and develop into superstars. And I think mentioning their backgrounds actually makes it a bigger deal, and it makes WWE sound a whole hell of a lot better. Hey, we molded somebody who was a gymnast 2 years ago. Case in point, on the internet today, Tiffany Stratton announced 3 years ago she signed her contract with WWE. Look at where she is now. She's going to be a women's champion in a matter of months. She's got the Money in the Bank contract. She is one of the most over female wrestlers in the division. She's been doing this for 3 years. She had no wrestling experience whatsoever, had no fucking clue what she was doing. She's on the main roster, and she's probably going to be the WWE Women's Champion maybe before the end of this year, so probably sometime in 2025, because that's when the Money in the Bank contract runs out. But that is an example of why I enjoy what NXT is doing for WWE. Because for the longest time, WWE under Vince McMahon struggled mightily in building stars for tomorrow. And they had the black and gold NXT, but Vince just, whether it was, pure pettiness and he didn't want to give Triple H credit for anything, he never gave any of these NXT stars really a chance, outside of maybe Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, and a handful of other people. But you see people like a Braun Breaker was a football player. Obviously, he's got wrestling in his DNA, being that his dad and his uncle, one of the greatest tag teams of all time, just went into the Hall of Fame very recently. But then you get people like a Kalani Jordan, who I'll talk about her match in just a second, and Tiffany Stratton, or you could go further down the line, and Jada Parker gets a huge showcase spot. There's so many of these women that are getting signed that don't have any experience, and they go into this system. I don't understand why there's a problem with hyping up a performer's background, because I think that makes WWE look that much better in terms of, hey, this person was, a football player, or was a gymnast, or was a volleyball player. It's really cool and refreshing to see, like, the human element, because at the heart of this, yeah, it's nice to see them develop as characters, but also, hey, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So when Brian Alvarez said that, I was like, fuck off, dude. Like, it's like, it's not a disrespect to the business or anything. I think it's great that you're molding these stars into loving the business. So, tangent over here. So Kalani Jordan takes on Wendy Chu. Like I said, this match was fine. Probably the weakest one on the show. It's not really the fault of the performers. They tried their hardest, but the crowd really wasn't into this. There really wasn't a whole hell of a lot of story to it. Wendy Chu has kind of had this darker character, and Kalani Jordan is kind of just getting into her own in this women's North American title reign. So Wendy Chu hits Kalani Jordan with, I guess, a Colossus. That gets a near fall. Wow, Jinder Mahal's moves are still being used. Wendy Chu escapes a rear naked choke. Kalani escapes a rear naked choke, gives Chu a jawbreaker on the rope. Chu and Jordan go up to the top. Jordan blocks a superplex, kind of a little bit of a blotch, with both women slipping on the ropes. Again, this wasn't a work of art by any means, but, Kalani Jordan's the champion. She's relatively inexperienced. Wendy Chu's been around for a while, but this is probably her biggest match to date. She hasn't really had a stage like this in her career. Chu puts Jordan in the rear naked choke. We get the hint spot of Jordan passing out, but the referee drops the hand, and Kalani's hand comes back up. She fires up. She stomps Chu, rally with some forearms. She gets a Russian leg sweep in on Wendy, and Jordan hits a 450, then goes for the, she's calling it the one-of-a-kind moonsault, the split-leg moonsault for the win. This was fine. Not the greatest showing in the world, but again, like I said, considering that this is NXT and where Kalani has been and how little experience she has, she's still putting on, really good performances. And this was fine. I would have liked for the crowd to have been better, but in some cases, you just can't control these type of things. After the match, a development in the story, Tatum Paxley attacks Wendy Chu. That's a storyline, if you've been watching NXT, that's really interesting. So then they showed a couple of tweets, and they developed some stuff for TV throughout the show, which I really liked. Wolfgang from Gallus, they showed his tweet basically demanding a title shot against Axiom and Frazier. Then they aired the replay of what happened with Ridge Holland, And so they showed Andre Chase being stretchered out and driven off in an ambulance. Sarah Schreiber backstage, she catches up with Ridge asking why Ridge did what he did. Ridge turned around, acted like he was going to speak, but then walked away. So some intrigue there. Again, I didn't see this angle coming, and I like it. I think Ridge being a heel, especially given his track record, a lot of people, kind of blame him for, Big E not being able to wrestle. I know that's been really cleared up, but I think Ridge as a heel, especially given his size, he could be kind of a monster and big intimidating. I think it's more believable for him as a heel. And this, dancing from place to place and trying to find his own, I think this could be really interesting going up against a mega overact like Chase U. So, another example of NXT being just a fucking phenomenal display of the future of this business comes up next in the form of Obafemi taking on Tony D'Angelo for the North American title. My God, Obafemi has just blown me away with how adaptable he's been. He's had very limited, I think they said he's had like 20 televised matches in his career, and he's already the North American champion. He's had one of the best North American title runs I've ever seen. Just from an NXT, championship reign, a run of dominance like this has not been seen in a long, long time, at least on the men's side. Like, you could maybe point to Asuka and Shayna Baszler when they were women's champions. But Tony D, by the way, I don't think gets nearly enough credit. This guy is not just a gimmick. He's not just the Don. This guy can work, and he showed up in this match. And I gotta hand it to Obafemi. He hasn't really had a chance to sell because he's just been facing a lot of smaller guys. I'm not saying Tony measured up to him in terms of size, but he's a bigger dude. And for the first time, we really saw Oba having to sell. And that is a lost art in this business, in abilities to making, to selling for your opponent, selling their offense. And what stood out to me more than anything was Oba's ability to, put over Tony's offense and, sort of show that he's in a little bit of jeopardy and not just be this one-note character, which is a great development for him. Late in this match, got really good. Tony hits Oba with an electric chair slam, which is impressive. Oba is not a small guy. Oba then went over to Luca Crucifino, shoved him to the ground. He then took out Stax. And when they tried to stop Oba from using a crowbar in the middle of this match, crowbar is up for you Home Alone fans, if you get that obscure reference. So then Tony tossed Oba into the steel steps, got a near fall off of a good-looking spear. A lot of people doing spears, some of them more effective than others. This was a good one from Tony D. Oba then tossed Tony D to escape a side slam. Tony escapes a powerbomb. Oba came back with a second powerbomb attempt. Tony escaped that. Vic noted that nobody had kicked out of Oba's powerbomb, and so Tony actually kicked out. Tony D escaped a powerbomb, planted Oba with a Uranagi. Oba recovered, gave Tony D a powerbomb. Then he hit a sit-out powerbomb, and definitively, Obafemi wins this match and retains the North American title. Seriously, this guy's fucking awesome. I can't say enough good things about him. Guy's a shot putter at Alabama. Now he's the North American champion, is dominant, and I look forward to every time I see this guy get in the ring. Because for a big guy to be, and with this level of inexperience, to be this good this early on in his career is frightening. I can't wait to see what he does moving forward. So a big story, and they did a really good job with some of these interviews on the kickoff shows. I love that element, just not even just main roster, but also NXT. So Trick Williams, who's the special referee for the main event, he meets up with Ethan Page. He basically tells him what he told Joe Hendry earlier in the night, saying, "Hey, I'm gonna call this match down the middle." And Ethan Page said it was a joke, like Trick being champion. Ethan gloats with the title, noted Trick won't call the match down the middle because Trick is going to get a title match if Page loses, because Joe Hendry promised him a championship match if he won. And Trick said Page better abide by his rule or else he's going to whoop that Trick. Love me some Trick Williams. He's great. So then Sarah Schreiber, another backstage interview. He interviewed the Rascals, Zach Wentz and Trey Miguel. Wentz said he may have won a match tonight, but he lost a brother. He then said he was thankful to have a brother in Trey Miguel show up and help. Trey said the best thing they could do is move forward. They then challenge Axiom and Nathan Frazier for the NXT titles, tag team titles. So again, developing storylines throughout this show, leading into weekly TV, which is really smart. And then we get to Jada Parker versus Roxanne Perez. Jada got a star type of entrance where basically she got the walkout promo from the back in one continuous shot, which they seemingly do every single show. She talks about being on point and how she's going to become the NXT champion. So like I said, this was the single take promo for her entrance. Roxanne Perez makes her entrance, and we get this match. And listen, Jada Parker became kind of a meme because of her figure, and a lot of people, made light of that. She has gotten really good and very natural on the mic and has gotten over her, with her natural charisma. So, this was a really, really good match. Perez, early on in this match, Perez tripped Parker on the steel step. Parker sells her ribs. Perez then curb stomped Parker's ribs into the steel steps. Perez continues to work over with stomps. Roxanne then hits Parker in the ribs with a double stomp for a 2 count. We get dueling chants for both these women. Everybody loves. I've said on this channel, and I've interviewed Roxanne Perez. I think the world of her. She's only 22 and she's this effing good. I'll talk about just big picture because there is stuff that happened after this. But I want to talk big picture about Roxanne Perez and what she's been able to do in holding this title for basically almost 5 months now. So we get dueling chants. Vic, again on commentary, noted this reaction is why NXT has the best women's division in pro wrestling. That's not a catchphrase. That's legit. You may not think that a lot of these women are like top tier, like near the top of women's division, but in terms of a depth perspective, NXT is the best women's division in all of professional wrestling because you have got women of all different calibers of experience, of different ages, of different backgrounds. It's so effing versatile where you could have a Roxanne Perez at 22 be as experienced as she is, or a Jada Parker who's probably a little bit older but less experienced, a Sol Ruca. I could keep going down the list. That's not a catchphrase, what Vic was saying there on commentary. So I love that he mentioned that. Jada rolled up Perez for a 2 count. Perez then sent Parker to ringside with a drop kick. Perez stretched Parker on the buckle. Perez then put Parker in an abdominal stretch. She also worked over Parker's ribs with elbows. Parker and Perez, they traded the boo yay right hands. And then Perez drapes Parker on the second turnbuckle, hits an uppercut. And then she hits Jada's signature bonsai drop and the LeBron James, taunt. And that was a neat little thing. Roxanne's character, I didn't know if it was going to work as a heel. She's really coming to her own. This was a really good performance from her, and she's done a lot of these to really put over a lot of the young talent. Again, I'll talk about big picture on Roxanne and what she's done for this women's division, and I think she needs to be showered with praise. So then Jada catches Roxanne, hits her with a deadlift powerbomb. That gets a near fall. We get a "This is awesome" chant. Parker then rallied back with some clotheslines and a body slam. Roxanne came back in with a front kick. Jada counters with a spine buster for a near fall. Perez then hit Parker with an elbow. Parker caught a crossbody and reversed it into a slam. Draped Perez on the second turnbuckle. Did her rapid, just the rapid slaps. Some of them sounded really gnarly. And then Parker shows Roxanne how it's done with the signature booty drop and then the LeBron James taunt. That gets a near fall. Parker's ribs give out on her later on in this match. Jada reverses a Russian leg sweep, hit Roxanne with a reverse suplex. Perez then reverses Jada's finish, the hip attack, into a roll-up. Perez then gets a crossface in and goes into a Rings of Saturn. Gives Parker a bunch of elbows to the ribs, selling the ribs this whole match. Jada then deadlifts Perez to her feet and gives Roxanne a Samoan drop. Perez then dodges the old Vader bomb, gets a cradle for a 2. Jada then escapes a Pop Rocks attempt from Roxanne. Jada then hits Perez with what the hip attack, which is called the Hypnotic. Neat name. Perez rolls to ringside, getting away. Parker then went for Hypnotic again, but Perez ducks, and Jada goes through the barricade into the Timekeeper's area. That was a gnarly looking spot. Perez then hits Jada with Pop Rocks on the Timekeeper's area on the barricade that was laid out there. Both men break the 10 count, but Roxanne, once that 10 count gets broken, Roxanne hits another Pop Rocks for the win. She retains the NXT Women's Championship. This is not a surprise whatsoever. No disrespect to Jada Parker, but this was an awesome performance for her. And I've got to say this about Roxanne Perez as the NXT Women's Champion. She's not going to be remembered for having the longest, women's championship reign in the history of this brand NXT. But honest to God, this has been one of the best NXT Women's Championship reigns I've seen in a long, long time. Because every single one of these matches that she has had, whether it be with Thea Hale, Lola Vice, Jada Parker, any one of these rising stars in this division, she had good matches with Lyra Valkyria. She has done an unbelievable job at 22 years of age of making stars, even in defeat in this title reign. And that is a sign of a great champion. I think the world of this girl. I think she is a future star, a future legend. There is a reason why she is known as the Prodigy. At 22 years of age, this girl is unbelievable. And from interviewing her 3 years ago as part of a podcast to seeing where she is now, it is unbelievable, the growth. And this heel turn, I think, has unlocked something in her that we never thought could have been possible. Because the personality's out there. She's doing other people's taunts. She's playing to the crowd. She's doing very heelish tendencies. This has done more for her than I think anybody is ever going to realize. And it's never going to get to an Asuka range or a Shayna Baszler range, which will always be two of the longest and maybe best NXT Women's Championship reigns ever. But my God, this has been one of the best title runs that I've seen in a long time from an NXT Women's Champion. And also, Vic Joseph on commentary put over most premium live event title defenses outside of Asuka. And I know that may not be fair because there wasn't, outside of the takeovers came in kind of late. And, now they're at this premium live event. I mean, I don't know how they're going to really frame, the takeovers and everything. But I'm glad that they brought up that stat because right after that, lights dim out, new entrance theme hits, and out comes Julia. The moment that we have been waiting for since she appeared at Stand and Deliver in Philadelphia a few months ago. Julia is finally in WWE. I am scared for the rest of the women's division. I've only seen a handful of her stuff. This woman is a killer. And this is Asuka 2.0, ladies and gentlemen. She is about to run roughshod on this division. And considering how good this division is, I know that Julia is a good enough performer to make stars out of this, similar to what Roxanne Perez is going to do. But this is the move. Julia and Roxanne Perez, probably at Halloween Havoc. Maybe they do it in Chicago on the NXT season debut in early October when they go to the CW. Maybe that's when it happens, or they wait till Halloween Havoc. But it's only a matter of time before Julia wins the championship here. And that's what they've been holding on to for. In a weird way, Julia's injury that she had while she was still in Japan, I think kind of helped this because this allowed Roxanne to come into her own, and it allowed a lot of younger talent, like I said, giving a showcase like for a Lola Vice or a Jada Parker or a Thea Hale that you wouldn't normally accustomed to. But this was a superstar level entrance, a superstar level debut. Some people say maybe this should have closed the show. I'm fine with it. it got a chance to breathe. This was a big, monumental moment for the women's division. And just look out, man. Like, Julia's there. Stephanie Vaquer is on her way at some point. Cora Jade's been hinting that she might be coming back. That'll be a huge addition to the youth of this women's division, add to the depth. And then Delta is also around, which is not as much of a more high-profile signing. This women's division is already the best in professional wrestling, in my opinion. And now you add Julia and maybe Stephanie Vaquer to it. Holy shit. I talked about the women's division on this channel earlier, and seriously, if you want to argue with me about that, you don't know what you're talking about. NXT is the best women's division in the sport right now. And then we get the main event. First of all, Trick Williams is over like fuck, man. There was about 7,000 people in the building. They were going ape shit for Trick Williams. This guy is... Have him whoop that Trick over, man. He's a star, man. He still needs some seasoning, and that's why he's in NXT still, and that's why he lost the championship. They're going to build some character, give him some more experience. He's still freaking great. It tells you everything that you need to know about the belief that WWE has in this guy, that they needed to put him on this show. He's one of the NXT's cornerstone stars, and everybody loves him and believes in him. Speaking of belief, out comes Joe Hendry, and... this is probably the biggest crowd he's ever performed in front of in his professional career. And everybody's singing his goddamn song. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. It's such a joy to see Joe smiling, everybody singing in unison, waving their hands around. Say his name and he appears from London, Paris to Tokyo, America, Scotland, Canada to Mexico. This guy is so freaking good, and it's just been a blast to see him get this stage and get this opportunity against Ethan Page, who I love and I think the world of too. So this, just to see these two gentlemen get an opportunity to main event this show, was great. I won't run through move by move, but let's get down the home stretch of this match. So Ethan Page, so he goes for a suplex. Trick had a really weird count, but again, he's a special guest referee. He's not supposed to be an expert at counting. But Ethan argues with Trick about the count, that being slow, it should have been at 3. You know how this is with these special ref spots. The crowd chants "Put Some Clothes On" in reference to the song that Joe Hendry had on this week's NXT, which was hilarious. Joe Hendry blocks a superplex. Ethan blocked the super standing ovation from the second rope. Ethan hits Hendry with a power slam from the second rope for a near fall. Joe gives Page a fall-away slam from the second rope, and then Joe goes to the outside with his plancha, which is really cool. Ethan recovers, hits Hendry with an ego's edge on the apron. Yikes. What a nasty bump that was. While Trick was counting, Ethan yells at Trick to count faster because he wanted to get the count out win. A little bit, I don't know if this was, Joe was kind of like, figuring out and trying to time when to go back in. It looked a little bit weird from where they shot it. It seemed like he was trying to get in the ring a couple of times, but he waits until 9, gets back in. So then Joe escapes another ego's edge and gives Page his own ego's edge. So that was neat. But Ethan kicks out of his own move at 2. Of course, you're not going to beat a guy with his own move. That's the biggest indictment ever. So then we get the boo yay punches. Joe takes down Page with clotheslines and a fall-away slam. Joe does his kip up and the turnaround, which he did several times. By the way, this is my sister's first time watching Joe Hendry. She loved it. It's impossible not to love Joe Hendry. This guy is just a blast to watch. He may not be the greatest wrestler, but in terms of a character and just being, it's simple, stuff. And he's been able to make it work for him. So then Joe leads the crowd in the, he does the boom, boom, boom. And I like that he does that. It's kind of a shout out to Queen. "We will rock you." He hits Page with the standing ovation. It's too close to the ropes. Trick's about to count 3, but he sees Ethan Page's foot under the rope and stops the count. And true to his word, Trick Williams called this down the middle. And he had integrity here, which I thought maybe there was an outside chance that we get a Trick heel turn, but They didn't go that way. It didn't really make a ton of sense. If you hear the reaction, that would have been devastating for a lot of fans if he would have done that. So then you get the signature shot where they're arguing with each other, and Paige shoves Hendry into Trick. We get a ref bump, and Ethan hits Trick with Ethan hits Joe with a standing ovation. Second referee gets in there. It's only a 2. Ethan hits Joe with the belt. Hendry, so Ethan brings in the belt, and he tries to use it, but Joe rolls up Paige for a 2. Ethan then DDTs Hendry on the belt. The referee kind of just looked at it and starts counting. Trick then runs in at the last possible second as the referee's about to make the count and stops the referee from making the 3. I've never seen that before in a special referee type of a stipulation. They tried to cover it up saying, oh yeah, this wouldn't have been a DQ. Let's get real. It should have been a DQ. So I think the more I think about that, that was Trick standing up for integrity saying, no, you're not winning that way. I'm the referee from that match. So Ethan and Trick are arguing. Ethan tries to punch Trick, but he punches the other ref. Second ref bump in the match. And while Trick is looking to see if the other referee is okay, as Joe is going for another standing ovation, Ethan Page goes low, dick kick city, yambag city, whatever you want to call it. And so Trick is distracted. Ethan hits another Ego's Edge, and Trick reluctantly counts the 3. Ethan Page, not to no one's surprise, I know everybody wanted to see Joe Hendry win the championship. It's one thing for Zachary Wentz to win an undercard match, baby steps, before we get a TNA wrestler. Like if Jordan Grace wasn't going to win, let's do baby steps here. And Zachary Wentz, he just won a championship, so I understand that. Joe Hendry was never beating Ethan Page. Ethan Page has held the title for 2 months. And this has always been about getting back to Trick Williams and Ethan Page for that NXT title. But this was awesome. This was a really fun use of the special guest referee stipulation. A lot of storylines woven into it. I loved the spot where Trick saved the match, saying, no, you're not winning off of a DDT to the belt. Like I've never seen that. That was a unique way. It was a very chaotic finish. Trick gets distracted. It was really like a lot of parts go into a special guest referee match. So to execute this to the way that they did was really well done. Joe Hendry had a really good performance. The crowd loved the shit out of this. And a great main event to a really good show. After the match, you maybe think that some other stuff was going to happen, but Pete Dunne gets involved. He drags Trick to ringside, hits the bitter end, and then the show goes off the air with Pete Dunne's music playing. It's going to be Pete versus Trick on NXT this week. I would expect Trick to get his win back, and that probably leads to Trick facing Ethan, I would think in Chicago, because they did announce on this show, Ava did announce that, hey, winner of Joe Hendry, Ethan Page, will defend the NXT Championship on the CW debut. So I would expect that that's where Ethan Page and Joe Hendry 2 would happen. Then again, I don't know. And maybe, Ethan wins by some nefarious means and we get to Halloween Havoc and we do it again. At some point, Trick Williams is going to win the championship back. That's always been what the goal of this has been. But Ethan has been a phenomenal champion so far. And he's getting a ton of heat. The people don't like him. I love the man. I think he is one of the most criminally underutilized performers in the industry. How Tony Khan completely botched utilizing this guy is a crime. A crime. And any cultist on the AEW side that wants to say he was worthless, dude, he got brought in right as the pandemic was kind of like, and we were kind of opening back up, and Tony just started signing every new or free to go WWE, ex-WWE wrestler to come in and be a part of his company. And Ethan just fell by the wayside. He was in something with Scorpio Sky. He was in The Firm with Stokely. And then he just started doing nothing. He was with the Hardys, which was kind of admittedly entertaining. But he deserves so much more from his run in AEW. And to see him basically go into NXT and go into WWE, he's literally been there 3 months. Literally been there 3 months. Not even. And he's the NXT champion. And he is doing multiple premium live event, main event level shows. And in the process of all of this, this is going to elevate Trick Williams to another level. And a sign of a good wrestler is to be very giving and also to, to be able to bounce off ideas and be able to bounce off heat. And he's done a really good job in, his facial expressions and the way that he's delivered promos, getting heat from the audience, and just building himself up as a guy you want to see get his ass kicked. And Trick is going to whoop that Trick and win that championship back from Ethan. And it's going to be a huge moment for everybody. So I commend Ethan. He's getting the dues that he has always earned, that he's paid his dues. He was great in TNA. So this was an awesome show. I've gone on for a long time, but the future is now, ladies and gentlemen, in NXT. They're going to the CW in about a month, and that's going to change the game. And the fact that you did see a TNA performer on this show win, granted it wasn't Joe Hendry, that doesn't matter. I think the bigger statement is they let a TNA guy win on their show. So keep your eyes out for that. That's going to be interesting, and it doesn't look like the Rascals are going to go away. Please, for the love of God, start bringing more TNA people. I'm disappointed Josh Alexander didn't get involved, but given the way they laid this out, it was fine. Maybe he comes in at a later point, but please, if you're going to talk about people for Oba Femi to challenge, Moose, I keep saying it. Bring him in, for God's sake. One of the great TNA champions of this or any other year. Do something with that. But the NXT TNA partnership has really done wonders for this brand. And if you want to say that, hey, it's not benefiting TNA at all, like I said, Zachary Wentz won tonight on a WWE show. This is a lot. So follow us here on YouTube at OT Mike Wrestling. Also on Twitter at OT Mike Wrestling. Follow me at OffTheMic28. Appreciate the love and support. Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.